Well, I forgot to roll the intro. Let me go ahead and do that. Sorry, global warming melted my brain.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Greetings and welcome back. It is hot. Obviously, you can see I'm not wearing my Switch to Linux shirt today. I'm wearing my absolute lightest shirt that I have because it is hot. It is 33°C in the van. I saw it get up as high as 36 or 37, which the cats did not like. And that was just me. I closed the van doors to rest in town. Shouldn't have done it, but oh well, I did. I'm not going to do that when I have to go to town tomorrow. But anyway, we're back with our show today, and we do want to talk a little bit about licensing and things like that. But how is everybody doing today?
Groovy, man.
Groovy, man.
All right. Not too bad.
All right. And Salbu's up there. Of course, Dan, me, and Ivan, we're all in the heat wave, of course, and Salbu's dealing with snow.
Yeah, we had last week. It was snowing, and on the one of the high passes between north and south of Norway, there was a warning that if you are going to drive this distance, you need winter tires.
Yeah.
We're all on fire. He's in the snow making snowmen.
Yeah, and it was like 3 or 4 inches of snow.
Yeah,
that's quite a bit for here too.
All right, we got 10 over on Rumble. We'll read those comments there first. Good evening, says the Anchorage. Greetings to you. Yes, raw burgers with cheese. That's right. These are the guys leading our country. We got 9 watching on Odyssey. I remember Adobe sucking 7 years ago. Yeah, I just had somebody leave a comment on my old GIMP tutorial video going, oh yeah, Photoshop's awesome, GIMP sucks. At least I own what I make. Jeez.
At least you can get it back.
Yeah, I can get my stuff back without agreeing some weird onerous terms. We got 19 over on Zatubies. And War Thunder, greetings, Commodore fan. Looks like I picked up try the new YouTube layout with all the comments. Oh, joy! Do you have the server side included ads too? More like YouTube tablet layout on ink. You used to be able to get around that, by the way, by just refreshing the page a couple times. I saw that once before when they ran the test before, and refreshing the page a couple times did it.
I have to do that with a lot of the fresh videos that I click.
Yeah.
I click on from the menu on the side. That's the video just will sit there and hang, and then if you hit the forward and then the backward button, it'll catch and go.
Yeah. It's starting to look more and more like, maybe by the end of the year we might be primarily consuming on like Odyssey or Rumble or something. I don't know. If YouTube keeps on spinning down the drain and doing stupid stuff, Other dice is not a huge loss. Let's see. 2016, still Intel, correct? Wait, what? I think I missed something. Let's see. Dual core, 6th gen i7. Yeah, if you're in central Pennsylvania, I'm selling 2 computers right now. Did not sell them at the yard sale. I did sell the soundboard. That was good. And I sold a bunch of other miscellaneous things. Made, about $150, I think, at the yard sale. But I have 2 computers if you're in central Pennsylvania and you want something to play around with Linux on. Let's see. Kitty at the barbecue. That's right. Right. Kitty likes those burgers extra. Well, I mean, the kitties do, actually. Every time I cook something, I give them a little bit of raw meat. They all love it. Good thing about the new YouTube layout is I don't have to pop out the chat to go full screen. Yeah, stay cool. Yeah, good luck with that. I'll get cool around midnight when it's only 70 degrees outside. Adobe says we don't own what we made using their suite. Congrats, Adobe. You just got yourself a ton of civil lawsuits on top of the one by the DOJ. Still 80 here, been in the high 90s all week. Yep. Glad for AC and fans. I want to pass some of that my way. At least when I drive, I have AC. So I was really like, if I was waiting on a bunch of things, because of course we got like 3 weeks for crunch time. We're off to science camp in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I won't be doing content that week. Well, if I get stuff pre-scheduled. We'll get something there. No live shows. I think that's the second week of July. But I have to place a lot of orders for a bunch of equipment we need. So I'm waiting for packages to come in. And then a client sent me product so I can take photographs of those for the new website we're launching out. And so I'm waiting for all these packages, so I can't go anywhere. Like, if I wasn't waiting for all these packages, I'd be like, turn on the AC, go high elevation, find a mountain somewhere, and go camp on top of it for a while. You know,
Oh, man,
unfortunately,
Silver Mountain.
I can't do that. Yeah. I can go back to the Green Mountains over there in New Hampshire, and I think, is it Green Mountain, New Hampshire, and White Mountain, Vermont? Is that right? Or is that the opposite? I think it's opposite. Yeah, White Mountains. That's right, because when I visited Ivan, I went up and camped in the White Mountains that night. And then I went down through the Green Mountains in Vermont. So
I'm sitting in the comfort of central air conditioning.
yeah. Oh, the GIMP video commenter was probably an Adobe employee. Probably. I have YouTube Premium, so no ads for you. Okay, there you go. It's funny, Hawaii is cooler than the mainland. Yeah, isn't that hilarious? Yeah. See all those nice sponsor ads, though. Yeah, hey, there you go. There you go.
Premium is always subjected to change. And they may change it while you get a couple of ads, or the rest of us get buried in them.
Yeah. A couple more over on Rumble. Let's see. Waiting for the global warming to create the new beachfront property. That's right. I mean, look at the positive side. We're going to have more beachfront property floating around. All right, we're going to go ahead and get to our content. Obviously, what we're addressing today is this idea of who owns your content. And this kind of started, of course, with Adobe coming out and, in the words of Louis Rossman, we're going to roof a ya, you know. We're going to do this really, really bad thing to you, and you can either click this button and say, sure, we'll do it, or you're going to have really bad stuff happen to you. Sounds like a beautiful circumstance. And this is the sad reality, is how many times we place ourselves inside of these conditions. And this is why we wanted to raise this awareness, because in light of this, we'll get into what they did in a moment, it caused Inkscape to come out on X and say, I can't believe we have to say this, but your files are yours. Amen for Inkscape. If you're not familiar with Inkscape, it is a very, very good open source alternative to Adobe Illustrator. So you should definitely look into that. So the Inkscape project will never peek at your files, and what's yours stays on your computer. There you go. Own your own with Inkscape. There you go. I didn't see GIMP do a response. Maybe I'm not following them. I'm not sure. But LibreOffice, the same day, said the exact same thing. We shouldn't need to say this, but we see how the software world is changing. Your documents are yours. We will never peek at your files, and what's yours stays in your computer unless you are explicitly choose to share something. That's how it should be. So what they did is they came out with a forced update. Now, remember, in the timeline of Adobe, you used to be able to buy the software, and then you would install the software in your computer, and then it was yours. I still have a full developer's license for CS4, which is what was used on my Windows computers when I did that. And, of course, one of the more embarrassing things I did, please don't laugh at me too
Even
bad.
at that route, they wanted a pretty penny for it.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I got mine. It was one of like 3 copies left on Amazon the day CS5 came out. I still paid over $2,000 for it.
Yeah.
But don't laugh at me, guys. But when I first was switching to Linux, I was trying to get Adobe CS4 to run on Ubuntu, not realizing there's other great software that does all the stuff we need to do.
Understandable.
Oh, well, the things new Linux users try and do, right? You don't need to do that. Just look for all the alternatives. Even if it's not like GIMP or Inkscape, there's other alternatives in the software as well. But they started to roll out, instead of buying the package, which I'm not sure you can buy the package at all anymore. I think they did away with that a couple years ago entirely. Now you have explicitly, it is an online cloud connected subscription, and you can't even use the software at all without being connected to the internet. And there's a channel, I just thought of it now, where I would have pulled this channel up. I think it was it JC, everybody know this channel? it was like J.C. Christian or something like that. I can't remember. I might have that completely wrong. He is a professional graphic designer and I think possibly photographer, but at least a professional graphic designer. And he tells this story about J.C. Christina. I think that's his name. If somebody can look that up and confirm that. So he's going on vacation, but he likes his job, and he's like, I'm going to take my laptop to the top of a mountain and work on some work. And just to have the meme that, hey, I'm on vacation, look at my beautiful workspace. Kind of like what I do, with my personal friends. Maybe I kind of do it on the Matrix server too. I'll go around, set my van up, start working, and take pictures of the beautiful places I'm parked, So, as he did that, he realized he can't even boot into his Adobe software at all. Like, he thought he brought everything he would need. He didn't know that if Adobe cannot see an internet connection, the software will not run. This pissed him off something fierce, and so he went through, and this is going back almost probably 5 or so years now, he went through and started testing every single alternative to every single Adobe product and started doing detailed videos. Not just the FOSS stuff, not just he did one on GIMP, which if I remember correctly, he didn't like it as much. But he looked at several other similar alternatives, and he prioritized switching to software. He didn't care if he bought it. He didn't care if it was proprietary. He cared if he could own a copy, pay for it once, install it on his computer, and run it without the internet. That's what his conditions were. Well, Adobe did away with that, and now they're forcing everything to be all cloud connected, but they're also making it now extraordinarily easy to just throw everything right on into the cloud. And that is where the problem is. So this week, or was it last week, this stuff came out a couple weeks ago. I put it in my crank file there. So a couple weeks ago, last week, I think, they came out with a giant thing saying, hey, you have to agree to our new terms of service. There was no I disagree button. There was I agree or I don't use the software. Well, the problem with that is that the terms of service were onerous, effectively granting Adobe permission to effectively own the content you created with their stuff. But if you did not click the button, you had no ability to get access to your data at all. And that in and of itself was the problem. And so with this is where we pick up here. So they included in the terms of service as a business user, you may have different agreements with or obligations to a business, which may affect your business profile or your content. Adobe is not responsible for any violation by you of such agreements or obligations. So in other words, if we do something inappropriate with the data and you get in trouble, that's your problem, not our problem. This is a huge problem. Huge problem. Another one they said is you grant us non-exclusive, worldwide, royalty-free, sub-license, license to use, reproduce, publicly display, distribute, modify, create derivative works based on publicly perform or translate the content, i.e. the content you created and or is inside of your Adobe content, your Adobe Cloud account. And so the big concern people had is that you're using now all of our data to train an AI model, which is problematic. And so they come back and say, oh, no, we don't train generative AI on customer content. We're adding the statement to reassure people that it is a legal obligation to Adobe. Adobe Firefly is only trained on a data set of licensed content with permission, such as Adobe stock and public domain internet stuff. That didn't actually settle well, as people are still recognize that A, you're granting things you may not even be allowed to grant under the basis of the fact that you might have an NDA with your clients that you're working with, which is very plausible. I have NDAs on some of the projects I work on. And so if I'm using their cloud and they start utilizing in a royalty-free worldwide sub-license the stuff I have in there, well, guess what? Now I'm in legal trouble, and you're saying that's not our problem, though. That's your problem. This is nonsense. So under no circumstance would I possibly use an Adobe product. I don't care if it's the best possible way to edit a photo in the world. I'm sorry, with this type of license, there is not a chance. All right, that is my monologue. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so with the European view, this sort of terms is simply illegal. You cannot have terms which says that if we screw up, you have a problem. They will be, and if they don't fix this, the European governments are not shy of shutting down a business until they comply.
Yeah.
So-
This is like an epidemic, and it seems like, there's lots of examples of this kind of ruffian, as as Lewis calls it, going on with all different things, TVs, other software. And I think Adobe pushed it a little too far with a lot of powerful people and companies that actually use their products, and their employees refusing to agree to something they don't know what they're agreeing to. And it was brought into light.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's just flat out abusive of them, and the fact that they want to force you into their cloud, force you into their subscription, and then lock everything down until you agree to an onerous term. Now, the other possible problem they'll have in U.S. law is that you have a subscription to something which isn't like a month-to-month subscription. It really is a subscription that is, it is, you're paying for it monthly, but it's really like an annual thing. And you change the terms of it halfway through. Technically, in United States law, you're not supposed to be able to do that. You can say, hey, the next time your license renews, this one comes into effect. But this raises the next problem, of course, is the week after. It's been a really bad month for Adobe. They're not tripping over their toes in pride, I'll tell you that. U.S. government is now suing Adobe. This has nothing to do with the TOS change. This has to do with the fact that a whole lot of people jumped in and said, yeah, I want out of Adobe. And Adobe's like, you can't get out of Adobe. Ha, 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 ha. And
well, not only that, they probably have the subscription set up for auto renew, meaning that they just yank the money out of your bank account when it's time to pay up.
And what the FTC lawsuit is centered around is the fact that they are making it extraordinarily difficult to cancel, and even they're supposed to have all the cancellation terms on the setup terms, but they're not actually doing that. So not only, though, what was interesting about this case, not only are they suing the company, they are also suing two of the executives in Adobe. And so that's actually an interesting twist that we haven't seen before, and I think we need to see a lot more of it. We need to start seeing all C-suite executives held personally liable for potential criminal and civil violations of these companies. Okay,
yeah,
and we should make it jointly and severally liable.
That stops all this.
Yeah, and it should be jointly and severally liable. I think the CEO should definitely have some skin in the game if they get taken to court and they have to pony up. If the CEO's got to pony up, his entire multi-million-dollar bonus, maybe they'll do less stupid stuff. I don't know. But what they're alleging is that first is when you sign up for it, let's suppose, and I think unless they've changed their prices, they probably have. Last time I looked at their prices, it was like $10 for a single app a month, and maybe $100 for a whole suite of apps a month, something like that. And when you get it, you're not just, $10 every month. It's $10 a month with a 1-year annual contract. So if you cancel outside of that annual contract time, they charge you 50% of the remaining payments.
So you're actually leasing it.
Yeah, so if it's $10 a month and you want to stop canceling it, you should be able to just stop immediately. There is no overhead in them where they have to deal. It's not like that leasing that car where, okay, you got to get the car back and now they have to figure out how to return the car around, because if they can't turn the car back around, it's got to sit on the lot and they're losing money. I get a car lease having an early termination fee. I don't get zeros and ones on a computer screen having an early termination fee. No, I can't pay for it. Oh, well, it doesn't cost them any more. It doesn't cost them any less. Okay?
That's a good point, but I feel like charging maybe like 50% of the remaining months in the agreement is more reasonable than just, hitting somebody with it, especially if somebody. I know I talked with Adobe support one time, and they had billed me without. I was meaning to cancel it, and they ended up, because it was in the first, I don't know, 20 to 30 days, they honored it, and they were very helpful. But the early termination stuff, I can understand it to a degree, but when you penalize the customer for leaving, chances of them coming back are slim to none. You're burning a bridge.
Yeah, I will completely disagree with you. In a software case, under no circumstance should there be an early termination.
Now, that being a business, they probably have a forecasted amount of money that they haven't got yet, but it's forecast that they will have it. And a lot of things are hinged to that.
And if they do a better job of maintaining their customers, they'll hit those forecasts. But as long as you're being abusive to your clients, then that's not a problem.
There's companies out there that are like using their software, but they're really struggling, and some of them may choose to opt out, which affects their forecast.
Yeah. I don't care about their forecast. Do you see? That's the problem, is their forecast is not my problem when they're changing terms in the middle of the contract and they're being generally abusive. So if you dig in deeper, what the DOJ says is that customers face serious barriers where nobody knew what the cancellation fees were, and they couldn't click on the screen, they had to call in or pay a giant fee. But when they were calling in, then there were serious hurdles like interrupted chats, multiple dropped calls, and a bunch of other things, making it pretty much impossible. And then what they would do is they would go in and they would charge money if you didn't pay it automatically through the portal to cancel and you called in without your consent, they would charge your payment on file anyway. So these all things put together, and the U.S. government's nah. And so
you shouldn't be able to, if it's postpaid for one thing. Another thing that companies do, they tend to send out the invoice or want you to send out a notice that you've got a payment due. Well, you just paid and you were like 3 or 4 days late, and now they already want the next month's payment.
Yeah.
Well, it's not due for another 20 days. I'm sorry. I will pay it when it's due, but don't expect me. It gets ridiculous, You're good. I don't like that.
Yeah, then that's why since they're not dealing in a physical product that they have to resell, I don't think there should be any form of cancellation fee at all. That's kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier.
The problem, I feel like we're getting off on.
They get that they get the idea that they can charge a cancellation fee, because if you cancel your cable TV, they charge you a cancellation fee. You cancel one you're using a dish for TV, you cancel that, you get a cancellation fee. There's a lot of things in the world already in place that they charge you a cancellation fee to get out of. Mm-hmm. And then if you don't return the receiver or something like that, then they really hammer you.
I think, though, one of the challenges is that Adobe was not making it clear there is a cancellation fee. When you
that's true, too. There's no place to go. There's no link on the internet.
And that's the issue. Adobe. But it's still a matter of it's zeros and ones. There's no product they have to resell. It's not like a car where they have to go in. You should be like, okay, you don't want to use the service? Fine. We screwed up. How can we make it better? I mean,
that should be just like
sale. That should be disclosed. It
should be like one of those news emails that you keep getting all the time, and you get sick of looking at it. And down at the bottom, in the very fine print, it says unsubscribe, and you click on it, you no longer get them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think on the latest video when Louis Rossman talked about this specifically. He went through, or he read someone who did just to see. It turns out that the only place on the whole site where it actually says that there is a termination fee is when you go through the shebang about canceling, and only on the one of the last pages where you need to confirm that you are canceling. Does it state that there is a cancellation fee and what the fee is?
Yeah.
The as
That's
far as the
that's ultimately the legal problem.
Yeah.
as far as the digital rights management and the agreement, as far as the policy changes of owning basically everything that you create on the platform, and not only that, three-letter agencies can have access to that anytime. We know this with these big, huge companies. They're constantly sharing data on individuals for whoever knows, whatever, God knows what reason, at will. And, that's bad enough if you store anything in the cloud. God forbid you have a photo that's misinterpreted that's part of a music cover video and it's taken the wrong way.
Or something that's supposed to go to your doctor's office.
Yeah. Something that like a medical document or something like that. It's gotten so bad. But I think not only the data mining aspect, but the fact that they have total rights to everything you create on the platform. No, I paid a license to utilize your platform to create my own original content. I did not pay
not
a
according to
license
their own terms of
allowed,
service. No, that's not
yes,
true.
I know that's what I have a problem with. It's the overreach is insane.
Well, not only that, the content that you create with the Adobe products has its own. It has its own standalone format, so nothing else can actually use it.
That's
Or
not
right?
good.
Is that pretty much true?
You
partially.
can convert it though. With Adobe,
I can take a PSD and import it into GIMP, although you're going to miss some elements. That's one of the things that Photoshop does a lot better is the non-destructive things like drop shadows and strokes and things like that. That is something a little bit harder to do in GIMP. And that type of stuff doesn't translate over because there's no one-to-one corollary to that. So things like that don't work. But for a general file, yeah, you can get them to migrate over.
Well, there's other products too, like Illustrator, and I think there's a video editor they have and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe a lot of that stuff is their proprietary format.
Yeah, I mean, Inkscape can handle a .ai file just fine. That's the Adobe Illustrator. I have no idea which video editors can look at the Adobe Premiere ones, but
Inkscape takes any kind of vector image, most any extension. I feel like pretty sure they take a variety of extensions that are vector images, and there's only going to be like a few, right?
There's a number of them. So,
all
right.
It's like, I spent, you, Tom, and you as well. I've spent hours and hours recording content and making content. Like I've got a little bit of content up on my Dark Horse Productions channel now, and for some. Like, it's the same thing when they do those flag requests and it says the record company is claiming your creation. I said, you do realize this is a cover. Like, I'm having to do things with the audio that make it not so the AI doesn't pick up on it, that it's a cover song. So it thinks that it sees it as, well, I might as well be singing a cappella, even though I have a second layer in there. But this is like the ownership of everything you do and the rights. And if they have rights to it, then they can take your money from anything that you make off of that content. If they have legal rights on any platform that you post it to, they can come in and request that. They can get that money. Do
they allow you to download your creations while you're working on them?
I believe they do, but it's not as easy as working on everything and keeping it in their cloud, and that's what the rub is. So if you take the more responsible route and you have copies of everything you have, but again, going back to that earlier point, if they're all in PSD format and you no longer have access to any Photoshop, you will have a hard time with some of the more advanced layer properties. unless you've converted it to some other format. And so that really is one of those hinge pins there. They're really this is some of the biggest corporate abuse I can recall in a long time. And so it begs us going into our last point here is that I mean, maybe we should mention this one here. Regular backups outside the cloud is very important, but
yes,
again, you may not be able to go ahead and grab everything in the same exact formats as you have everything else. And so with that in mind, you do need to make regular backups, but ultimately with this plan Adobe is doing and how abusive they are in general, you do need to consider looking at other software. And we're not necessarily saying you got to use GIMP. We're saying you got to use something else. That Jay Christina had it right. Let's look for a company that's not going to abuse me left, right, and center. Let's hunt around and figure out how I can make my work. And that's the same message we've been giving on Linux. Of course, I personally use GIMP, and I don't have a problem with it. And, you know, they're not going to come back and take all my work and claim it as theirs and force it in their cloud component because it's free software, and that's what free software tends to do. That's really our principle there. So that is my thoughts. So what do you guys think about that? What type of free software alternatives?
Yes, you need competition.
Or
without competition, greed will take over.
Yeah.
Well, as an option to Adobe, I would highly recommend DaVinci Resolve. However, DaVinci Resolve has a very steep learning curve.
Yes.
But if you stay with it, you will be pleasantly surprised at how easy it becomes and how efficient it becomes to use. You'll love it. I loved it. I like it better than Adobe now. The other problem with DaVinci Resolve is it's a pain to get installed in Linux. There are ways, but for whatever reason, I'm not able.
I was able to get it to work for a while when I first started playing with Linux. The thing that it wanted the most was an NVIDIA graphics card. It would not work with anything else.
Well, that's
and you had to have the CUDA package
installed. It will work
installed.
with Intel. It will work with an Intel and AMD card. You just have to install extra packages, and that's really the grunt of it all. But for whatever reason, I've done that in Linux Mint Debian Edition. I still can't get it to run without exiting, without just going out.
Maybe I need to look into it.
It renders really fast if you have an NVIDIA card with the CUDA core package installed. It takes full advantage of that.
Well, it will work. It will work on Intel as well.
We want to move off of DaVinci Resolve. Though.
Yes.
So,
but
what other software alternatives are there to Photoshop and Illustrator and things like that? That's where anybody have any thoughts on any of those?
Well, there's Krita.
I personally use GIMP, but
there's Krita if you want to finger paint.
Yeah, well, Krita's good not just for finger painting, of course. It's definitely the premier package for Linux for somebody doing animation type stuff, because you get a Wacom tablet and you can set up Krita with that. And with Krita is you can use it with the pen with the drawing components, and it really responds well to hard depresses and light depresses and things like that. Now, Krita also does a lot of the layer stuff, the layer style properties like Photoshop. So in some ways, it's better than GIMP for some of those layer elements. There's other reasons why I still prefer GIMP over Krita, although admittedly I haven't looked at it for at least one major version. So I might need to revisit Krita to see. I think their biggest problem is they never figured out how to get text layerings to work right. And hey, that's one of the most important thing I have, text on thumbnails, you know. So if I can't get that working, good night.
So I think for photo editing, GIMP is the really big one, and it works on all the major platforms. So you don't need to switch to Linux in order to start using it.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah, and
skimp, try GIMP.
There you go. Don't skim, try GIMP. Try GIMP. I
Nice.
messed it up. Great one, Dan. So yeah, I mean that's the thing about free software is you don't have to completely abandon everything you know just to give it a try. You start by giving it a try.
Wayland keeps getting in the way. That's
Yeah, I mean
all.
it's getting better. The support for Wayland's getting better.
It's
and
hard
so-
to do things like that on Wayland. It's like impossible.
I haven't
do
seen any
stu-
problems with. In fact, I don't imagine there's any GIMP problems on Wayland. I mean,
Well,
it's
There
GIMP
is
itself
video
is-
editors.
Yeah. I mean, doing things with video, I think has been a problem with Wayland. Doing audio is not, and the reason is there's different layers for all the video stuff than there is for the images. So,
Yeah,
So-
Zorin OS, absolutely gorgeous, but I just could not stay with it. I was close, and I broke it.
Right.
Anyway,
I want to
You
have a look
broke
at
it.
some of our comments here. We got 33 watching on Zootubies.
yeah, I broke 4
And
installs.
let's see what we got here.
Broke
So we got
4.
Yeah, there's a comment by, There's a comment by Commodore Fan 64
Yeah,
that Kden Live is a good video editor. I saw a video the other day where one of the critiques against Kden Live, it's the same one I'm having. It's the one I'm using the few times I need to edit video. It's that it has a tendency to crash. Save often.
Shortcut.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
save
depends on
option,
which
yeah.
package you're on. I have found that when you're using, because I use Kden Live and have used it for most of my time here on Switch to Linux, and I almost never have a Kden Live crash. Now the secret is instead of using the package from the distro, instead of doing that, you want to use the package from the their repos or their debs, or using it directly from them. Their Flatpak, I think they're the ones that package their Flatpak as well. That's one of the problems I had when I went from I went up to the version on my test computer, is Kden Live constantly crashed, and so I added the Ubuntu PPAs, and that they were actually broken on that version. That's actually why I rolled that up to the latest version of Mint to take advantage of the latest, all the latest package changes in Linux Mint. Then adding the PPA for Kden Live, I have never had a crash on that, and it's worked beautifully. The version here, I can't remember if I'm on the repository or if I'm on the PPA, but I've almost never had a crash on this computer either. So it's kind of like version dependent and things like that. So let me check my sources here, see if I have that PPA installed, if I can remember my password.
I'm getting an error message. That's interesting. I'll look into it.
I must be on the repository on this
No,
particular
it works.
computer.
It's working. So I don't know why.
All right.
Let's use the older one. I think the
let's see.
repositories for Debian Bookworm, there's a little bit of a issue with the backports and the updates. Interesting. So yeah, that makes sense because I'm doing updates, right?
All right, so EU, let's see. If EU catches wind of Adobe's lawsuit by DOJ, Adobe will have to pay hell of a fine because EU is merciless. Yeah, EU just uses big tech as their purse. We're running low on money. Sue some other big tech company. Gotcha. What South Park episode comes to mind? Which South Park episode? I'm sorry, I don't follow South Park much. So if anybody knows which South Park episode,
I love South Park. Some of their stuff is
what
abhorrent.
episode are these he talking about that relates to this topic?
To Adobe.
The cable guy.
Oh, is it the what's the cable guy one? Can you explain?
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I've seen clips of it about the cable guy rubbing his chest. I don't want to describe it so it sounds really gross, but it is.
It's South Park. Of course, it's really gross. Plead the fifth on what I tried to get working with wine on Linux. Yeah, there you go. I should have pleaded the fifth. You want more embarrassment from Switch to Linux, guys? Microsoft Office doesn't work either.
Oh boy.
Despite LibreOffice is infinitely superior. Because Winamp. Hey man, I didn't have anybody holding my hand
I
through this
didn't
kind of
mean it
stuff.
like
That's why I
that.
started this channel, man. If it was Winamp, not found 100% exact replacement with all the cool visualizers and plugins, no VLC. What is there is a Linux package that has a Winamp skin. What is that one? Anybody know?
Audacious. It has a Winamp like mode, and in
Yeah.
this mode, all of the existing old Winamp skins and plugins work in this.
Yeah, that's when you want to look at it if you haven't looked at it before.
Yeah, and it's the one that I'm using because I started when I started playing MP3s and music on my computer 20 some years ago. Winamp was the thing that you used to do this, and I liked the player so much that when I started using Linux a few years later, I found a player who looked exactly like Winamp, and then I just imported the skin that I'm using, and which I'm still using to this day.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, Ivan's got some praise for the Pac-Man game and back. Want to talk about that, Ivan?
Yeah, was it 4 years ago? I was given that thing by, at the time, it was relatives at the time, and it's just been sitting in the box, and I needed some set decoration, as it were, and I'm like, this really needs to get some use. Nobody's playing it. Why don't I put it up on top?
That's a beautiful set decoration too, especially you got the demo mode going.
Very nice.
Yeah.
War Thunder says Adobe. Oh God, it's got Evan.
Oh no.
So is this pie inside, or is this?
You could buy those at Walmart. So I'm not sure exactly how they're running.
It's not original arcade machine, is it?
No, if you look at it, like zoom in on Ivan's. If you look at it, it's short. Now you can buy an extender that makes it the old standard height, but they're kind of designed to set on a tabletop and play. Yeah, you guys buy them at Walmart for like, what is it, $100 or something like that? I've seen them.
This one was $200. It's from Arcade 1UP, and it's known as a Partycade. The particular form factor.
And does it just have Pac-Man, or does it have other things too?
This one has, not just Pac-Man, but it also has Galaga, which is like my favorite from that period.
Mm-hmm.
It also has Galaxian, which is not my favorite. That was like the predecessor to Galaga. Galaga was like a part two.
So do you know anything about the internal hardware? Is it a Pi or is it something else? Or?
No, there isn't actually. There is a board that is proprietary. The code is original. So it actually is from Midway. So all these games, it's all original code.
Oh, nice.
So I'm excited about that.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, War Thunder goes back. Adobe overstepped their bounds here. I get to manage your files in their cloud. They need some license to do so. Yeah, that's the problem. You just need to get off of this kind of stuff. If you need cloud stuff, use Nextcloud, where you own stuff. They just open source the visualization. That'd be enough. Yeah.
Yeah, cloud SaaS-based stuff is just a money. I've finally learned it's a money pit. You have all these extra services for customers to buy, and for extra revenues and MSP, and you're like, nobody wants anything because nobody can afford anything but what's included in the plan. And I'm like, why bother? I just keep it real lean. But with SaaS-based stuff, you also have like companies like SaaS Alerts selling security for your SaaS. Subscriptions are a problem in general for anybody, and it gets insane. Take advantage of open source software. There's a service that I used to use that I liked a lot. Cloudamo, they're fantastic. Yeah, check them out. I think they're out of Switzerland, but cloudamo.com, I believe.
Yeah.
And they'll do like hosted apps, so you've got some support there, but not for the apps, but for the platform.
Another FOSS tool you can try for video editing is actually Blender, which I've not used it for video editing, but the newer versions particularly have a video editing specific mode, allowing you to do 2D video rendering, which is really nice if you have some 3D components as well. You can easily drop 3D components into your 2D videos with much simplicity. So that is another one to try out as well. But yeah, War Thunders uses GIMP, Inkscape, and Krita to make videos. There's also things like OpenShot, which was a little bit easier. The first couple videos on this channel were done with OpenShot, and then that's right when they changed absolutely everything. And I said, if I have to relearn it from the ground up, I'm just going to learn how to do Kden Live.
Yeah, there was Shotcut too.
Yeah, Shotcut.
Yeah, Shotcut. People still use that, and they
yeah.
say it's pretty good.
Yeah, that one's still out there. I've looked at Shotcut and looked at it and said it's effectively the same exact thing as Kden Live.
Yeah.
So
probably that makes sense.
And yeah, of course.
I use Shotcut, and primarily it's just for compression purposes.
Yeah. The Anchorage, Ivan, you have 3 retracted messages. Are you being censored?
No, I kept screwing up a spelling. I was horrible at myself. I'm like, oh, dope, come on, not this letter, the one right next to it.
That's what I hate about the keyboard I have on my media PC. I cannot type with it. It is so
I'm
difficult
total sausage fingers. I do it all the time in Matrix, and I hate it.
Yeah.
The bigger the keyboard, the more wild I am with my fingers. Sausage fingers.
Why? War Thunder hasn't touched Adobe since CC 2017. Mine was CS4. Of course, I used that until I ditched Windows entirely, which would have been around 20 or something. Several Linux YouTubers I've heard use Photopea web app to replace Photoshop. Okay, there's Photopea on the web. OMG just got Winamp working, at least in some virtualizations. Nice.
And they used to 15 or so, 10, 15 years ago, there was a project. I'm not sure if this was on GitHub because GitHub was new at the time. But there was a project they used GIMP as the base, and they created a user interface that looked exactly like Photoshop. I think they called it GIMP Shop as the product name.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, but it's not in development as far as I know anymore.
There's also some plugins for GIMP that will give you some more Photoshop type functions. And of course you can write Python scripts as well.
FileZilla for moving files between different systems, and an alternative to 7-zip would be pzip. And I believe both are open source, or at least FileZilla is mostly open source. I know that pzip is open source. I just checked it, so it says right here open source.
Yeah, FileZilla is open source.
Yeah, I thought it was.
That's the premier FTP application.
Yeah, which is helpful. If I really wanted to, I could just run Remina along with FileZilla and do remote access for my customers and not have to worry about paying.
And I also believe that FileZilla supports. Right? And I also think that FileZilla supports transferring using SSH as the
I believe it does. Yeah, you just have to set the custom port because you can set a custom
your
port
servers. Server administration that comes in super handy.
Yeah, if I'm SSHing though, I just generally use the terminal.
Commodore
Fan says Kden Live on Solus works well. So if you're looking to do video editing with Kden Live, check it out on Solus.
Photop will actually do PSDs, .ai, .xds, .fig, sketch,
so if you,
PDF,
raw. If you have your Photoshop backup files on your local machine, use that. That's the website.
Yeah, it's called Photopea. Photopea.
Yep, Photopea.
I think it's an online editor.
Yeah, that's what somebody said. So yeah, I mean, there you go. If you have a PSD file you need to do something with, then go ahead and check that one out. Yeah. Is that a free website to use? Do you have to register for it? Do you have to give them up your data and your firstborn child?
They've got an API.
They got an API
access here. Looks like Open API. Photopea API. They've got like a page dedicated to it. So
yeah, I don't see a buy now or anything.
That's nice. That's useful for people that need that function.
Let me go to the
Commodore Fan refuses to use any distro based on Ubuntu. Okay. So using Solus.
It has a GitHub page.
Yes.
So it has a GitHub page. I wonder if you can self-host it.
Homie, I love Solus. Solus OS for the win. People talk a lot of crap about them, but you know what? They keep going, don't they? They keep releasing new releases, and they're working pretty good.
Yeah, except they're going to be Wayland only.
Yep, that's a choice that I'm not crazy about. But,
I don't see a license anywhere.
Eventually, it'll get there.
Used to use Blender for video editing, but it's barely up to the task. Ran really slow on Windows. Yeah, I mean it might be.
I'm sorry, my microphone's way over here.
That's the thing. I wanna play around with that a little bit. Olive Video Editor, by YouTuber Matt KC, which was unstable when I tried it. Yeah, I played around with Olive. Is it past alpha now?
I think maybe
you could download Olive as an app image. Let me see if it's still around. Olive.
Yeah, I don't know. I looked at Olive briefly. I opened it and I was not impressed.
Let's see.
Just from the basic, I can already see it's very limited in function.
Actually, I knew people that actually did Hollywood stuff that said Olive was really amazing.
Really?
But it was an alpha. It was an alpha last time I looked at it.
You're kidding. I'm going to try Olive again.
Last release was just May 13th. So it's active development, Windows, Mac, Linux. It's available as an app image. So
whoa! Look at Olive finally coming along with it.
Yeah. So
we're getting what we promised.
Yeah, you can get. Let's see. There's the app image. Last time I tried the app image, it didn't work for me. So
bad. I must have tried it way back when.
Download starting. All right. Well, I guess I'm downloading the Olive app image.
Same for me, bud.
Give it a try.
Yes, sir.
All right. I don't know how big of a download size it is. Well, I'm already downloaded 40 megabytes, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah, there's Olive. So let's look at Olive that they just had a release. Like I said, I haven't looked at it for a few years. All right, that's our YouTube comments. Let's jump on over to comments from Odyssey. There's 11 watching over there. All the back doors in their software made me do it. All I remember is I was still using Windows 7 at the time. I couldn't been any longer. Instigator may or may not have a Jack Sparrow version of CS5.
It's just going to end up saving me so much money, and now I'm going to be profitable to the point where I can have things done for marketing. Hint, hint. Like it's just going to end up saving me money, so I'm happy.
Hingefoot, Sabu Hingefoot would like to know if you're on a real spaceship or not. So of course he is.
Yeah, I'm on the Voyager after the long trip home. So
you have the maintenance crew. Yeah, you have a really good latency. You're sending data back to Earth really quick.
Yeah, so. It's a hidden behind the moon, so people with star binoculars can't see it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, welcome, Hingefoot. Glad you made it. Hope you enjoy the show. Yes, this is the built-in green screen feature in my own private Jitsi server, actually.
Yeah, and for those who are interesting, the background image I'm using is from the engineering section of USS Voyager.
Nice, very cool.
And it's from the and it looks like it's taken from a certain angle. So when I look at my main computer, it actually looks like I work on the computer on Voyager.
You said that's a Voyager background?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's engineering.
Yeah, awesome. I like Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah.
Yeah, that door off to the right, that actually goes out to the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, over on Rumble, we have 18 watching over there on Rumble. We have some praise for the same software we've already been talking about, GIMP and Inkscape and things like that. So Andy Man from Birmingham still watching some football over there. Is that what you call it? European soccer, he says, but that's football, right?
Football.
Let's see. Switch to
Foosball.
Linux, drunk or sober. There you go. Well, I'm sober. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably have to play around with DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, and there's a few Cokick really knows his Winamp history with this comment. Winamp, it really whips the llama's ass.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Really, indeed.
Yeah.
Whips the llamas.
Love it, love it, love it.
Let's see. OpenShot is great
Good
for quick and simple
times.
cuts. Yeah, the thing OpenShot does in the latest version is you can install Blender as a dependency, and you can actually render 3D text over your images with Blender in OpenShot. So that's a neat feature that OpenShot has. I've not gotten it to work, but last time I was playing with it was it a year or 2 years ago, and it was just released, and there were a few bugs in it yet. Let's see. Ease on resources, LMTE. Splicing a music track can be tricky on volume. I've used many music-specific tracks past years because of it. 300 baud from the Voyager. There you go.
No,
Use
it's
OpenShot for
350
cheap
baud.
and cheerful home video clipping.
We have the high-speed connection, so it's 350 baud.
Yeah, there you go. So the Olive download is 145 megabytes. If anybody wants to know, it's available as an app image. So that's pretty nice.
That actually don't look that bad.
All right. I think we got to the bottom of our comments, and it's right about 8. So that's our time we usually wrap it up. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Let me check in one more time over here on Ztubies. That's where we have the most comments going.
Another wrap.
Yeah,
Right,
so I
please
looked at the blog post that Adobe put up in response to this outcry, and they do specify that in no there is no case where they get the ownership of your content, and they specify that the only reason that they are scanning your content is to check that they are not hosting, even if it's for your own private use, that they are not hosting CSAM images. That's the only reason for the scan.
Yeah, so they're saying they're scanning for CSAM, which is correct. But at the same time, their licensing that they came out with did not mention that specifically. It mentioned you would grant us the ability to use all this kind of stuff. It sounds to me like someone's doing a lot of backpedaling.
Yeah, but so what many storage, like Facebook has something similar to this in their terms, but they specify, which Adobe didn't, and which they are now going to, if they are not done already. They are specifying that the licensing that you're giving them is for them to be able to host it on their site and publish it in the way that you want to be published, because they need a license from you in order to do that. And,
what they should have done is said, we're making this change. If you disagree with it, click this button. We're going to give you one place, download all your content, and then we're going to delete it. That way you still have access to your content. It's not on their servers. But to give you a terms of service button that has agree and no other option, and the agreement places restrictions on you and removes restrictions from them in the middle of a contract term, and then making it difficult and costly to cancel, that's all problematic.
Yeah, and they also say that that the license that you do give them should be narrowed to the specific use, so it seems like they acknowledge that they did a mistake here, and they are trying to correct it, which is commendable.
Yeah, I really hope that they make a really good example out of them over this, and not just take away their Friday night party money for a month. You know,
yeah, I mean,
and really stick it to them.
I'm not
That
sure
they did it in the first place
I'm
on
not
their
sure
review.
it's as commendable as you think,
it's
though,
not.
Salbu, because
No.
the challenge is that they tried to do something, they backpedaled with public relations when they realized it was backlash. If there was no backlash, nothing would have changed.
Yeah, it's
I don't
just like the
I don't think that's
Microsoft
commendable. I think
recall
that's just
thing.
them saving their stuff.
It's a
Now they're recalling the recall.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just get that later on, though. I don't know. We'll see what happens with Adobe down the road.
This is a
won't be using it
recall
one
from
way or the other.
Microsoft. We are recalling recall because it needs to be recalled.
Yeah.
For your safety.
We're just going to recall it something else later and put it back in silently.
Yeah.
In any case, this is a good example of why you. So this is a good example of why you should use free and open source solutions for doing the things that you do. because
And
the-
save
then
things
you-
locally,
really.
not on other people's servers as much as possible.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna wrap
Well,
this guy up here.
I use
so
the Macrium
with-
Reflect.
we're going to wrap it up here. So we'll be back tomorrow, right about this time tomorrow, for the weekly news roundup. So that's going to be 8 o'clock for the weekly news roundup tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. And then we will be back. We'll be back then. I don't know what I'm doing on a Saturday video. I hope we have one. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's been such a crazy week, though. I may or may not do it. We'll see. All right, guys. We'll catch you guys later. And with that... have a good one.
You too.
Remember to Linux responsibly.
Yeah.